it's amazing to me how in sports sometimes we are so quick to move on from the present and always look to the distant horizon, looking towards the future, talking about the future, and not doing enough to live in the moment now, or we're always looking in the past. And sometimes that's the right thing to do, because the present isn't all that good, or you are trying to build for the long-term future. But sometimes, in pursuit of that better future that may or may not ever come, you dismiss what is a pretty good present. And for the Atlanta Falcons, this whole saga this offseason with what they were doing with the quarterback position, their pursuit of Deshaun Watson, their failed, ultimately, pursuit of Deshaun Watson to bring him in, the hometown kid, to then have to trade away the face of the franchise for the past 14 seasons and Matt Ryan for a third-round pick, mind you, is the peak of forsaking your present for a future that is uncertain, that may not even happen. Holy shit. Unbelievable. There is no other way to say this for the Atlanta Falcons, but they look like absolute and complete morons as an organization for this on a variety of different levels. But more on that in a moment. Sometimes it's been easy to overlook Matty Ice in his career. Sometimes it's been easy to dismiss him or not give him the level of recognition or props that he deserved. And that goes back to 2008 in the NFL draft, frankly. If you look back, you had Jake Long and Chris Long were the first two picks in that 2008 draft, and you had plenty of people talking about Atlanta, and they should take Glenn Dorsey over Matt Ryan. You know, somebody that was very big in the NFL media circles hyping up Matt Ryan was Mike Mayock, and there were allegations of he was only doing that because he was close to the family and the Boston College ties and all of that. So even going back to Matt Ryan's college days, there were questions about him, and he was being overlooked. And there's no business that he was not ever the first overall pick in that 2008 draft. Like, that was just gross mouth feces. But it happened. And Matt Ryan came in as a rookie under head coach Mike Smith, and they made the damn playoffs. And, you know, when you look at the entirety of Matt Ryan's career, how differently would we view him if it wasn't for 28-3 in the Super Bowl, right? The big second half collapse, or even like last quarter and a half plus overtime collapse, if you want to get technical about it. Now imagine if Matt Ryan had a Super Bowl right now. He capped off that MVP season in 2016 as a Super Bowl champion, perhaps Super Bowl MVP. A lot of people would be polishing up the Hall of Fame presentations, the Hall of Fame speeches for him, and some of them still might. But it leaves a question there, which is inherently unfair to him, but it is what it is. But after 14 years, Matt Ryan, who has been the face of the Falcons franchise, and it's easy to forget just how bad of a spot this Falcons franchise was after 2007, with the Michael Vick dogfighting shit. The guy that they thought was going to be the face of the franchise was gone. Matt Ryan had to come in as the new face of the franchise on the heels of that. To 14 years later, the Falcons have won division titles. They made the playoffs several times. They made it to a Super Bowl that, frankly, they should have freaking won. Matt Ryan stands at 8th all-time with almost 60,000 career passing yards. And I know that's in part a product of the era that he plays in, but it does speak to his longevity and his success. He's 9th all-time in career touchdown passes. This is a guy that will beyond question go down as the greatest Atlanta Falcons player of all time, period. Nobody measures up in terms of his longevity, his impact, his success with the Falcons organization. And the fact that this Falcons organization brought in a new head coach and general manager here after the 2020 season said, yes, we're going to be all in with Matt Ryan, but then don't take a quarterback, either Mac Jones or Justin Fields, 4th overall, to then trade away Julio Jones like dumb dicks. Even though you can say, well, that kind of worked out. Did it really, though? You were going all in with Matt Ryan, but then you trade away pieces that would indicate that you're going all in. Sound familiar, Green Bay? So, You don't take the quarterback when you were positioned to potentially do so in 2021. To a year later, you got so captivated and salivated at the thought of bringing in Deshaun Watson, a quarterback who didn't play a single snap in 2021, with the off-the-field cloud hanging over him, to where you were going to have to pay him a shit ton of money in order to bring him in. You went all balls deep on that one and then failed to get the deal done, to where now you've pissed Matt Ryan off and you realize, yeah, he's probably not going to want to be here anymore. So you've now taken the best player in the history of your franchise, who still has a couple of years left in his tag, partnered that with the $40 million dead cap hit you're going to take for trading him, all to send him to the Indianapolis Colts for a third-round pick. This is the type of shit that should get general managers and front offices fired, not commended. Fired! You didn't have to go in all in on Deshaun Watson to that sweepstakes. But once you did, it better fucking pay off, because when it doesn't, there is blowback and there is hell to pay. And you're paying your own hell now. You have traded away the face of the franchise, the best player this franchise has ever fucking had, for a third-round pick for the right to carry a $40 million goddamn cap hit. And oh, by the way, because you were stupid last year and you passed on taking a quarterback, you also don't have that quarterback in the mix. What are you going to do, trade for Baker Mayfield? Okay, so now you're bringing in a guy in a fifth-year option who was so great that the Browns said they wanted to give up 3 first-round picks and more to bring in Deshaun Watson to replace him, when he was a guy that fucking Watson that the Browns were supposed to draft in either the 1st and 12th pick overall in 2017. Unbelievable. For the Indianapolis Colts, to me, it's another example of Chris Ballard kicking the can down the road at the quarterback position. Every year, it's a new starting quarterback. Whether it's Andrew Luck, whether it's Phillip Rivers, whether it is Carson Wentz, and now it's Matt Ryan. At some point in time, you've got to find the long-term answer there. Now, what I will say is, Matt Ryan, arguably, is the best of the recent stopgaps that they've brought in, because Phillip Rivers was at the tail end of his career. Carson Wentz was not nearly what he was, let's say, in 2017. So there is certainly a play here to say, like, he's about the best they could have done considering the market. And if you're trying to win now, I certainly would rather try to win now with Matt Ryan and Baker Mayfield. And there's certainly a strong argument to make there. For the Colts, you could say, hey, you're bringing in Matt Ryan. You only had to give up a third-round pick. That's not so bad. Especially since you got some draft pick capital back in the whole sending Carson Wentz to the Washington Commanders deal. This offseason has been crazy for the quarterback position. Just think about this for a second. Aaron Rodgers actually stays in Green Bay, but Russell Wilson gets traded to the Denver Broncos. Deshaun Watson, after not playing for a year with all the off-the-field allegations, gets traded to the team that should have drafted him 5 damn years ago to begin with, the skid marks, and they give up a bounty. Unbelievable. Carson Wentz goes to the Washington Commanders, and now Matt Ryan, who has been the dude unquestionably for the Atlanta Falcons for the past 14 seasons, is sent packing for a $40 million dead cap hit in the third-round pick. That's nuts. Now it's all going to be about, what do the Atlanta Falcons do? You don't have the long-term answer at quarterback on the roster. You're heading into a draft where you don't even know if that guy is there, if there is one, or if you'll be in a position to take one. They're getting quickly into dumpster fire status here. This is not good. I guess one thing if you wanted to make the play for Deshaun, but again, I circle back to, if you do that, it better work. It didn't work, and you got all the blowback and the hell to pay on the back end. And they deserve all the criticism and shit that they're going to get, because this is a monster entirely of their own creation. Like, this is just poorly handled. Not the way you should treat a guy that's meant so much to the franchise for almost a decade and a half, especially when you don't have a viable or better potential option in the wings. You don't. Like, this is clown school shit. For the Colts, What's going to be so different this time versus these other stopgap options that they've traded for and brought in? What's going to be so different here? I don't know. But man, oh man, what a crazy offseason, huh?